trolling Senator Elizabeth Warren as a snake, and in post after post, labeling Mayor Pete Buttigieg a rat. Two victims of this tell CNN they were so afraid of the online attacks they faced, they don't even want us to describe the circumstances for fear it would start up again. They both just questioned the politics of Bernie Sanders in a public setting, and their personal lives were exposed and attacked.
Well, just what Nick said, I think that's right. I mean, there is no Democratic establishment anymore. There's not even a Democratic Party anymore. The Democratic Party is a meaningless notion. It's a party like the Republican Party has been hollowed out and privatized to a large extent. There are Democratic elites, and so when we're talking about the Democratic establishment, we're really talking about a bunch of people that Nick also knows well, which really means Democratic donors.
This is the most important election in the history of our country.
This election is the most important in the modern history of this country.
The election in 2020, without hyperbole, is going to be the most important election this country has undergone in over 100 years. Not a joke.
This November's elections are more important than any I can remember in my lifetime, and that includes when I was on the ballot.
There are just 8 days left in what is the most important election of our lifetime.
Where did you guys come to a conclusion about why Clinton had such a hard time just owning that she did something wrong with the email server?
You know, I know that Russia and other forces would love us to have a debate. This is exactly what they want. They want us to have a debate about the internal structure of Hillary's campaign, what's true, what's not true. And I'm just not going to play that. I'm sorry.
Yes, we came, we saw, he died.
I was the CIA director. We lied, we cheated, we stole. It's like we had entire training courses. It reminds you of the glory of the American experiment.
You know, people have said, if you look at, for example, the heat that ended up around the bend the knee of Colin Kaepernick. Mm-hmm. Many smart people have said it actually was not a thing. The Russian bots started taking out. Yes.
But I saw my mom. My mom is the strongest woman I know.
She should
this
be
is
running.
Not about.
If you're like me, one of the millions suffering from pain caused by migraine, Nurtec ODT may help. It's the only medication that can treat a migraine when it strikes and prevent migraine attacks.
Trump and the Republicans lose on Tuesday, and if they lose badly, it's not going to be because of the left, whatever that means. It's not because the 50 Antifa black mask guys who roam around the United States breaking windows and committing mayhem, most of whom are probably paid police informers. Most of whom are probably paid police informers.
Rudy Giuliani, there's only three things he mentioned in a sentence, a noun and a verb and 9/11. I mean...
I'm going to try to get through this. Thank you for what you did 3 years ago today.
And I went to Wall Street in December of 2007, before the big crash that we had, and I basically said, cut it out.
And now I want to hand it over to the president of Ukraine, who has as much courage as he has determination. Ladies and gentlemen, President Putin. If we finally beat Medicare.
Thank you, President. Bye-bye.
This version of Biden, intellectually, analytically, is the best Biden ever.
He is sharp, intensely probing, and detail-oriented and focused.
They're eating the dogs, the people that came in. They're eating the cats. They're eating the pets of the people that live there. And this is what's happening in our country.
I can't do it.
We'll do it live. Okay. We'll do it live. Fuck it. Do it live. I'll write it and we'll do it live. And thing sucks.
In 5, 4, 3.
Citizens of the internet, welcome to another exciting edition of the Polyticks show. And before I get going too far here, I just want to make sure 100% that my mic's working, because I've had these instances where I've logged on and then I've come to find out that my mic has no sound, and that's never fun. That's never good. It's never right. It seems like it's working. So I wanted to start tonight by just kind of talking a little bit more about me personally. So lately I've been working a new job, and it's a very blue collar job. And I'm a guy who used to work in offices. If you've heard me talk before, I worked in the advertising industry, advertising and marketing. And so, with how shitty the economy has been, and being that I'm an aging white male who I'm not one of those people who's like, DEI, I don't think white males have had it tough, but I went through it. Let's put it that way. I'm just giving you my background, and so you could kind of understand my political leanings maybe a little bit better. So my new job is a much more physical job. I used to sit behind a desk. Now I work a lot more, outdoors in the sun, moving constantly on my feet. And it's a good thing. I wouldn't be doing it if I didn't like that. But it got me thinking the other day. So that's also the reason I didn't come on last night. I had this stream ready to go last night, and then I was so tired when I got home from work that it would have been boring. It would not have been. I would not have been as chatty as I am right now had I come on last night. I'd been like, "Hey guys, how you doing?" So anyway, that aside, I was thinking today about kind of just my rationale behind doing this show and why I see things the way I do, because I've never been a Trump supporter, but I do like Trump, and I didn't vote for Trump, but I kind of like what's going on. And it got me thinking, I had to explain myself politically to a friend of mine who's, because people are very propagandized about Trump. They think that he's some aberration, like some vastly, like, everything was going fine, and then Donald Trump came along and invented lying. Like, that's how certain liberals see the world. They're just like, everything was going great. Obama was a great president, and Hillary was about to take the reins and make things even better. And then Donald Trump came along and ruined it all by lying, something no one in politics had ever done before. So much so that we had to count all his lies, and it's like that kind of garbage. But my whole rationale behind this, and the way that I see the world, and what I tried to explain to my friend, is think back to COVID and all the people who were like, you got to do this, you got to fucking wear your mask, you got to keep it. I don't trust any of those people, period, full stop. Any of the people who sold the COVID narrative, looking at you, CNN, looking at you, MSNBC, Rachel Maddow, without any skepticism whatsoever, I fucking do not trust them. Not at all. And that is basically the entire media. All the mainstream outlets, from fucking ABC to MSNBC to Fox, right and left leaning outlets. Anyone who sold that, I don't trust them. That's where I'm coming from, right? So that includes the stuff that they're saying about tariffs and ICE and all that stuff. So that's how I kind of see the world is, and these people who try to take down Trump, they did all kinds of crazy shit to him, like with lawfare. The whole case with him inflating the price of his real estate is like, it's such a joke when you look into the details of that. It's completely, it's like what everyone does. It's how people sell real estate. You always start high. when and there's no, it's a victimless crime. Like the bank actually made money on the loan. It's just like, it's clearly a media op to like make everyone think that, oh no, you can't, which is why Trump won. People saw through it from a mile away. So anyway, just to explain myself, that's kind of where my head is at in the current media landscape, because, it's a mixed bag for me. The economy, I feel like it's getting better. People I know are getting jobs that were looking for work are starting to get jobs. And that not necessarily Trump's fault. That's just, it's hiring season. It's getting towards Q4 end of the year. But, I've said some of my grocery bill has gone up a little bit, so it's like, I'm still waiting for this to pan out. But also, again, anyone who sold the COVID shit is not trustworthy. I'm not saying that they might not do good. And listen, there's a difference between people who like bought it at first and then were like, wait a minute. Why, because there's plenty of people, good-hearted people, like even myself, like I got the fucking shot. I did everything I thought I was supposed to do, and there's plenty of people in the category of like, hey, we were misled and we came around. But none of that applies to like major media outlets whose job it is supposed to be to question authority and question the narrative, Don't trust them. I do not fucking trust any of them. And with that, we're going to get into tonight's subject matter. Now, the theme that kind of came up to me as I was putting tonight's stuff together was based on a very popular 80s song. If you're from my generation, even if you're not from my generation, you probably know this. So that is a song by Rat. And the whole point of it is, it seems like we're entering a phase in our political existence where people just weaponize the government against each other. And in the case of Tulsi Gabbard and Donald Trump, I feel like it's kind of warranted. But we're going to see how this pans out, obviously, because there's definitely an element of retribution here, which, again, this is one of the reasons I'm sure that these people fought so hard to try and prevent Trump from getting elected, to the point where bullets were fired at the guy. You know what I mean? And the first order of business tonight is the raid of John Bolton, which I'm sure you saw. Actually, I'm jumping ahead here. I'm sure you saw the news. John Bolton's house was raided in a very similar manner to the way that Donald Trump's Mar-a-Lago was raided when he was president, or when he was not president, the lawfare type thing. So it's kind of, but also I could not think of a person that I hate more or think deserves this more than John Bolton. Okay. And I think if you're from my era of politics and you lean to the left at all, you understand that. So, anyway, to keep going here, I want to show you a little bit of the, reaction to and the story behind your boy John Bolton and his recent raid. So I'm going to start with a clip here from Tim Pool's show with, it's actually Phil just reading this article from the AP about what happened. And they have a couple of good points. They make a couple of good points as well. So let's look.
Trump National Security Advisor John Bolton. The FBI on Friday searched the Maryland home and Washington office of former Trump administration National Security Advisor John Bolton as part of a criminal investigation into the potential mishandling of classified information, a person familiar with the matter said. Bolton, who emerged as an outspoken critic of Donald Trump after being fired in 2019 and fought with the first Trump administration over a scandal.
I love how they frame that. Emerged as an outspoken critic of Trump, wasn't like a guy who did everything in his power to like sink Donald Trump's presidency. We're going to We're going to get into this. Anyway, I'll
scathing book he wrote documenting his time in the White House was not in custody Friday and has not been charged with any crimes, said the person who was not authorized to discuss the investigation by name and spoke to the Associated Press on the condition of anonymity. The search is seemingly the most significant public step the Justice Department has taken against a perceived enemy of the president, are likely to elicit fresh concerns that the Trump administration is using its law enforcement powers to target the Republican votes. I can barely even say that without chuckling, considering how they targeted Donald Trump when he was out of office.
Right.
They go on to say they come as the Trump administration has moved to examine the activities of other critics, including by authorizing a grand jury investigation into the origins of the Trump-Russia probe that dogged Trump for much of his first term, and as FBI and Justice Department leaders signal their loyalty to the president. So this is, I mean, it's nice to see, right? If he's actually violated the law, which they're doing an investigation that's perfectly on the up and up. It's nice to see that the Trump administration, the DOJ, is actually applying pressure to people that have been not just critical, but they've had questionable dealings with the administration previously. Do you guys think that this is actually going to materialize in anything, considering that Bolton himself is not under arrest, or I'm not even sure if there's anything more than just searching his house now?
You want to take it away?
Go ahead.
Yeah, well, I'd say, John Bolton's never met an invasion he didn't like until this morning when the FBI showed up at his home, right?
Oh!
Really what's happening here is they're picking up this Trump administration is picking up
on
a former Trump administration Department of Justice investigation into Bolton's potential leakage, handling of classified information in his book. And I just have to say the irony is really thick, because when Trump was getting, raided and prosecuted for his handling of classified information, which he's the president and he can do, John Bolton said, well, Trump is very careless with this information. So I guess we're about to find out who's really careless now.
Yeah, if I understand correctly, this is pertaining to, like William said, his book.
Right.
That was questionable in the first place when the book was released, right, Abby?
Right. I mean, there were some concerns early on. This is something Jack Posobiec and I were talking about today. There were concerns early on in 2020 that when he released his book, perhaps he had used classified information to construct that book, which is called The Room Where It Happens, which I think it's funny because he basically ripped that off from Hamilton, because that's Aaron Burr's song in the show.
I've never seen Hamilton, but apparently that's the song from the show Hamilton, The Room Where It Happened.
I love the show, but whatever. So there was concerns about that it had been leaked, and while it was still in pre-publication, leaked to the New York Times. And there were also concerns that he was every night apparently taking notes from his classified documents at the office and taking those notes home. So I think that it's certainly interesting to see what will happen with this. There's also arguments to be made that maybe there are too many classified documents. This is something that we've heard Tucker Carlson say over the years. Maybe there's too many classified documents. But also,
So that's a good point, and I kind of cut the clip before they get into it. But Phil talks about how people with clearance use classified documents as a means to avoid accountability. Oh, well, I can't talk about what I did because it's classified. Doggone it.
watching MSNBC today looking for something, and this woman was talking about how it's rich for Trump to be talking about classified documents since he had absconded with them, and she didn't mention at all that of course there's the Presidential Records Act, and the president can take classified documents, and every president has taken classified documents. I mean, there's even the Bill Clinton socks case about how the president can keep classified documents in his sock drawer if he so chooses. But yeah, I think that I think it'll be interesting to see how it plays out. And also, this is not a new case. So to say that this is an intentional political prosecution now, this was a case that the Trump DOJ brought in 2020, and the Biden DOJ dropped it.
Okay, so that's an interesting side note there. So I want to show you what Taibbi had to say about this, because he has sources and he goes into a little bit more detail about where he thinks this is going. So listen to this.
Editor-in-Chief of Racket News, Matt Taibbi, joining me right now to discuss.
This host, by the way, is an absolute twerp. Like, I don't know who this guy is, but he's such a little D-bag. He's anyway.
Further, Matt, it's great to see you. You've become something of an authority on ferreting out and exposing wrongdoing and law-breaking by the federal government. Knowing what we know about Kash Patel and Dan Bongino, they're by-the-book guys. Do you get a sense of that there's something there when it comes to the Bolton raid?
Ew, you disgust me. Okay.
Well, what I was told this morning is that this is, at first I was told it was connected to
issues about classified material in his book, The Room Where It Happened. But over the course of the day, the New York Post has reported, and I also heard that it's connected to a larger investigation into classified leaking that extended into the Biden era. And this comes on the heels of a number of disclosures about other officials too this week, including James Comey and Adam Schiff and some other people on the Hill. So it's part of a larger sweep of people who are suspected of leaking during the Russiagate period.
Yeah, I want to get more to that in a minute, but I don't want everybody to forget that John Bolton was really enthusiastic about the FBI's raid on Mar-a-Lago, a raid we now know was conducted to cover up for Joe Biden's over 4 decades of stealing classified information. Watch.
I don't think he cared about the classification system. I don't think he appreciated the sensitivity of this information. He liked cool things. He saw things that so he wanted to take them, and he was pretty much able to take them, and not just on classified information matters, on all kinds of things that crossed his desk. Some days he liked to eat a lot of French fries. Some days he took classified documents. He wanted them. Why did he want them? Because he could get them.
That guy is such a little fucking twerp too. And so it's like, when you see what's going on now, when you hear these clips, and we're going to go deeper on, this guy, I despise John Bolton. So it's just great to see him getting this kind of treatment finally. No one deserves this kind of treatment more than a little cracker ass Colonel Sanders fucking chicken hawk like John Bolton. I'm sorry. If you're a fan of John Bolton, you wouldn't be watching this. So I digress.
Maybe he's speaking from experience. Those who conducted and greenlit the Mar-a-Lago raid, Matt, in my view, need to be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. Do you think that we will see more raids like this one on Mr. Bolton in the weeks and months to come?
That's what I've been led to believe. And I think the reason that you're seeing Bolton first in line, even though he may not be the primary target of these investigations, is that there's a statute of limitations issue. They can probably still prosecute for violations tied to the release of his book, but they only have about a month left. So that's why I think you're seeing this raid now. And it's the first of what I've been told is going to be many.
Great point. Now, as I alluded to in the preamble, and you already alluded to.
So I want to show you what kind of a person John Bolton is, the kind of character this guy has. And it's I think a lot of people were surprised when Trump hired him in the last time around, because, Trump's appeal was that he's a break from the neocons. And I think that, as difficult as it can be to wiggle through these political situations, you see the appointment of someone like a Tulsi Gabbard as a fuck you to the John Boltons of the world. Whether you like Tulsi or not, she has her own set of issues. I would never claim that she's perfect, but she's better than pretty much anyone else who could possibly get that position. You know what I mean? So I want to show you this tweet that Aaron Mate put out about Bolton. Since John Bolton's personal privacy and safety is in the news, here's Jose Bustani, the first Director General of the International Chemical Watchdog, OPCW, describing to me how Bolton threatened his children and had his office bugged because Bustani was standing in the way of U.S. plans to invade Iraq. Now, here's the actual video clip of this, so you can hear this guy in person describing this.
When I raised the question of Iraq and Libya becoming members of the organization, I received a request from Mr. Bolton to come to The Hague to have a word with me. And it was a very unfortunate experience. He came to my office and he stayed there for 15 minutes, not more, and said, I'm here to tell you that you have 24 hours to resign. This is what the instruction I got from Vice President Cheney.
Vice President Cheney.
This is it. And I said, well, I don't see any reason for me to resign. My record is impeccable from my point of view and from the point of view of most delegations, and I don't see why I should resign. And he said, well, this is your call. you know where your kids, we know where your kids are, so you have to think serious about that. Which I said, I know, my kids know, and I am prepared to whatever comes. And he left. That was it.
Did you take that as a physical threat against your children?
Well, you can read that sentence in many ways. I read it as a threat.
Can you imagine if that little cracker fuck threatened your children? Oh my God, I would have gone through the fucking roof if that guy said that about, you know where my kids are? I know where you live, bitch. You're going to see me standing at your window tonight, cunt boy. Oh my God. That is, anyway, sorry.
You can interpret it many ways. My kids lived, 2 of them, in New York and 1 in London. So I did not expect him to mention that fact because it wasn't called for. We are discussing my position in the PCW, not where my family was. So
So the point being, I don't feel bad for John Bolton, but let me keep going here. Let's keep hammering this nail. This is John C3 on Twitter. John Bolton's net worth is $90 million, according to Forbes. His pre-tax earnings during his time as government employee were roughly $1.6 million. He lives in a highly taxed Maryland. That's a lot of consulting income. Peddling intelligence for money is very lucrative. We're about to see. Can't feel bad for the guy. So this is your boy Ryan, Proud Socialist, on Twitter. And he says, get ready for Democrats to turn disgraced war criminal John Bolton into a hero in 3, 2, 1. And here it is. Bernie Sanders. This is from August 22nd. John Bolton and I have nothing in common. John Bolton and I have nothing in common politically. But the last time I heard in America, people were allowed to criticize the president of the United States without the FBI showing up on their doorstep. Just another step in Trump's march towards authoritarianism. By the way, send me $7 so I can cave to the Democratic Party. Anyway, everyone was right. All the Democrats came out. And this is a tweet from back in the day when Trump appointed John Bolton to his administration from Bernie, from the same Bernie that's defending him now. These guys forget that social media has a record of everything. John Bolton was part of the effort to mislead the U.S. into the disastrous Iraq war and his supported military action against North Korea and Iran. He was too extreme to be confirmed to UN ambassador in 2005 and is absolutely the wrong person to be the national security advisor now in 2018. But I'm going to defend him in a couple of years when Trump finally puts him in jail because I'm Bernie Sanders and my spine is made of gelatin. Sorry, my Bernie Sanders can be pretty solid. I don't think it's as on tonight as it should be. But this is the level of dumb fuckery around this. Like, say what you want about John Bolton. He's a terrible person and is getting what he deserves. But let's let the president have the last word here because this is just funny. Trump is the funniest president we have ever had in the history of our country.
I saw it on television this morning. I'm not a fan of John Bolton. He's a real sort of a lowlife.
I love that he's switched up to wearing a hat now that says Trump was right about everything. The world's most massive troll is our president.
When I hired him, he served a good purpose because, as you know, he was one of the people that forced Bush to do the ridiculous bombings in the Middle East. Bolton, he wants to always kill people, and he's very bad at what he does. But he worked out great for me because every time he doesn't talk, he's like a very.
The thing about Trump that's great too is everything is a win to him, even when it's not a win. So here he is, like, explaining why having John Bolton on, why hiring John Bolton was an awesome idea, despite the fact John Bolton did everything in his power to help tank Trump's presidency. And now he's, his DOJ is going after the guy.
A quiet person, except on television. If he could say something bad about Trump, he'll always do that. But he really doesn't talk. He's quiet. And I'd walk into a room with him with a foreign country, and the foreign country would give me everything because they said, oh no, they're going to get blown up because John Bolton's there. He's not a smart guy, but he could be a very unpatriotic guy. I mean, we're going to find out. I know nothing about it. I just saw it this morning. They did a raid.
Do you expect the DOJ to brief you on this?
Yeah, they'll brief me probably today sometime.
So here's the irony of what Trump just said. Before we move on, I just want to pontificate on this a little bit. All the people who were responsible for the Russia shit.
Did it? No.
Russia
did it.
Russia
Did it.
People like John Bolton. What's kind of incredible about this is that a lot of those people have actual dealings with foreign countries that are illegal. The reason, and this came out in WikiLeaks emails, which of course the Democrats have blamed successfully in the minds of a lot of people on Russia. But in those WikiLeaks emails, they talked about how one of Hillary Clinton's biggest, negatives on the campaign trail was the whole Uranium One deal that her and the Clinton Foundation had been involved with. So she did the most politician thing ever and flipped it on its head and smeared the other guy as the thing that people didn't like about her, but point again, just to circle back to my overall point here is now it's just desserts, because these people went so hard at Trump based on the assumption that they were going to prevail and he was not going to get back into power. But now that he's there, a lot of them are guilty of the crimes they accused him of. And wow, anyway, I believe I have a clip of Bolton talking about, I'll say it's in the next segment. But I have a clip of him talking about Tulsi Gabbard and Kash Patel and Matt Gaetz. And he's very, very opposed to them becoming, being put into positions of power, because he knows that they're the kind of people who will do this kind of thing and fucking indict him for his actual real life crimes that he actually committed. They're not just made up. So anyway, couldn't have happened to a better person. John Bolton, I've said this before. There are certain things that I've been liking about what Trump's doing, and this is absolutely one of them. You can call it, theatrics or retribution or, again, the round and round thing, kind of just like back and forth weaponization of the justice system. I'll tell you why. I like how that ends. I'll tell you why. Because these motherfuckers deserve it. No one in the world deserves this more than John Bolton. Uppity cracker John Bolton. Uppity chicken hawk cracker boy John Bolton with the mustache. The most... I didn't dig it up, and I'm not going to bore you with it, but there's a thing, what are they called? Now This. That channel Now This has a John Bolton piece that goes into intricate detail about what a fucking piece of garbage this man is. And I couldn't even do it justice. But if you want to really go into the weeds on how terrible John Bolton is from start to finish, Google Now This John Bolton, and you're in for a ride, let me tell you. Anyway, let's move on to our next topic of the day, which is Tulsi Gabbard. So I got a lot of shit for, being pro Tulsi, and I won't apologize for it. Listen, in the world of politics, no one's perfect. You know, her fucking Israel stances and the way that she sucked ass to the Zionist movement is pretty pathetic. However, she's much more on the page of where I'd like a person in government to be than anyone else that could have possibly been confirmed to this position. And she has a very strong history of, first of all, she's a veteran. Second of all, the fact that she resigned from her position at the DNC when they were cheating Bernie Sanders, it shows her character, because most people won't rock the boat. They're like, hey, this is a good gig. I'm a power broker. I got people trying to wine and dine me. I'm controlling a seat, so, and Tulsi stepped away from it. She said, no, I'm going to go with integrity, and they're cheating Bernie Sanders. So just on that alone, before there was any motive for her, she showed you who she really was, and again, I might not agree with some of her. She's a little more religious right than I like. And she has a little bit of Islamophobia going on in a lot of her stuff. She's not perfect, but she, again, better than most. So she recently got rid of a bunch of people from DNI. And I'm just going to throw you this clip up from Sean Hannity, everyone's favorite putz. But, it's got some good info.
The deep state. Earlier today, Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard stripped 37 security clearances over a Barack Obama-ordered intelligence report of Russian interference in the 2016 election.
So, not that I'm going to keep interrupting here, but this is another thing I think that Trump has learned. He's going in hard in the first year, where it's like, if you want to change anything, this type of shit, these people, these hangers-on from previous administrations that have clearance and access to everything you're doing and can leak it, you have to cut them out of the picture, or you will be crashed and burned like you were last time. They wrote a fucking article about it. Do you remember the New York Times piece by the anonymous staffers that were like, we are the steady state? Sounds a lot better than deep state, but the same fucking thing. They basically unmasked themselves during the first Trump term. They're like, hey, guess what? You might have voted for change, but we're going to make sure everything stays the same. That was the thrust of the article. So I like that Tulsi's going in and going hard and like, yo, these people who we know are fucking against us, who will work against our agenda, they're out. That's just smart politics. If you want to get your fucking agenda done and be able to, make the things happen that you ran on, you have to cut these obstacles out of the way. Because again, I don't trust any of these people. And I guarantee you there are plenty of people that exist in government that are there to leak and fucking stop, like be roadblocks to any kind of substantial change that people vote for.
Which launched Russiagate. She announced the move on X, saying in part that the 37 who had their clearances revoked, quote, abused the public trust by politicizing, manipulating intelligence, leaking classified intelligence without authorization, and or committing intentional, egregious violations of tradecraft standards. Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard is here with us with more. This kind of fits in with your original declassification. And that was what you discovered was there was an original senior career intelligence assessment about possible Russian interference in 2016. And they said there was no interference. And correct me if I'm wrong. And then Obama himself reordered another assessment with top intel officials rather than listen to rank and file senior analysts that are career analysts.
So there's a slight difference here in what you're saying, Sean. First of all, thank you for having me on. It's great to see you. The intelligence community assessed in the months leading up to that November 2016 election that, yes, Russia was trying to interfere in our election by sowing discord and chaos, but stating over and over again that Russia did not appear to have any preference for one candidate over the other.
I don't even buy that. The idea that Russia interferes in our election. Have you seen the fucking memes that they supposedly ran? I wonder if it would tank my internet if I pull it up. I'm not going to try to pull it up right now. I'm sure you've seen it at this point, but they even still can't let go of that. Like the reality that Russia did anything or attempted to do anything of note in that election that would have had any noticeable effect on any of the outcomes is completely fucking false and fabricated. Israel on the other hand, buys the goddamn Congress, and they're never like, "Oh, Israel tried to fucking hack our election." It pisses me off that people still recite. Even Tulsi Gabbard is like, "Well, Russia did try to sow discord, but they weren't trying to do it for either side. They didn't care. So then, what were they doing it for?"
They viewed both as equally bad for Russia's interest. The big shift that happened around what is now commonly known as Russiagate was after the election. In early December, President Obama called a meeting of his National Security Council leadership. From that meeting, there was directive that was delivered from President Obama to then Obama's DNI, James Clapper, to then CIA Director John Brennan, to come up with a new intelligence community assessment that contradicted the ones that had been produced previously by the intelligence community. This new one said that Russia, Putin, did try to interfere in the election because he wanted Trump to win. They did this using shoddy intelligence, little pieces of intelligence gathered from places that intelligence professionals refused to reference previously because they knew it was substandard and did not meet the quality and the credibility that is expected of them as intelligence professionals. And they used the Steele dossier, knowing John Brennan knew, James Clapper knew, others within the intelligence community knew that the Steele dossier was a political manufactured document intended to be weaponized against then candidate Donald Trump. Well, Donald Trump won the election. The American people voted for Donald Trump in 2016. So these intelligence leaders, and John Brennan and James Clapper and James Comey, then director of the FBI, then used the Steele dossier as a source for this Obama-directed new intelligence assessment. Again.
So what this makes clear to me, that I've always kind of suspected anyway, is that these people knew under a Hillary Clinton presidency, they would continue in their normal everyday activities. You know, they had been feeding Ukraine weapons since 2014. You know, it's in Rokana's post about the Azov battalion that we talked about last week. He tried to pass legislation to stop giving weapons to Nazis in Ukraine, well documented on government websites back in 2014. Actually, I think it was 2017. But he mentions that they've been funding these what do they call them? Opposition to the Russian-backed separatists or some shit, whatever. You know, we're obviously funding a proxy war there for a long time. Point being is, guys like James Clapper and John Brennan were Obama-era CIA guys who were planning on being able to comfortably slide into the next administration and keep their shit going. And then Trump won, and they were like, "Oh fuck, now what? Like, we might not get appointed to the Trump administration." Yeah, but if it's a Republican administration, pretty much someone who will do your bidding will get in there too, you know. But that again is why I think people like Trump and Bernie Sanders are such a threat, to the point where they accuse them of being Nazis and Russian assets and all that, because they might actually restaff the government. And we can't have that, because if we restaff the government, the direction might change to something people actually want, instead of just continually, you know, funneling all our money into pits in Ukraine and Israel and fucking, you name the country. Venezuela now under Trump. We're going to get into that in a minute.
Stating and alleging that Putin, Russia, tried to help Trump win the election. Clearly showing a preference for Donald Trump. Now, if you go to odni.gov.
No. Russia
did it.
Pages of documents that I've declassified and released that show point by point exactly what happened through this timeline, that showed this very dangerous thing that occurred in the creation of Russiagate, the creation of this manufactured intelligence assessment that essentially had the intent of undermining the voices and votes of the American people who elected Donald Trump. They were not happy with the outcome of that election. And so they created this politicized, weaponized piece of fake intelligence that, as you mentioned, then went on to serve as the foundation for everything that came after, the multiple investigations, the years-long Mueller investigation, 2 congressional impeachments, investigations in the raid at Mar-a-Lago. The list goes on and on.
Okay, so I want to, while we're on this subject for a minute, I want to take you back. Back in time to when Tulsi Gabbard was being confirmed as director of national intelligence with the Trump administration. So let's go back and hear what your man John Bolton has to say.
What are your thoughts this morning?
Well, I thought it was the worst cabinet level appointment in history until they then heard about the Matt Gaetz appointment. Really, my reaction was that this is like the legend of Caligula, the Roman emperor, who wanted to nominate his horse as a Roman consul.
Did he just refer to Tulsi Gabbard as a horse?
You had to be a Roman senator.
What's your name, scumbag?
And it was intended to show how demeaned and degraded the Roman Senate had become. So now we're going to see whether the American Senate can stand up and reject two people who are totally unqualified, unfit professionally, and really lacking in the moral characteristics, the character that you need to hold these jobs. I think this vote should be 100-0 against both of them.
So,
why don't you go back to your home on Whore Island?
It's pretty clear now that he's been rated why John Bolton was so against these appointments and went on every TV station to cry out and sound the alarm, so to speak, against people like Tulsi Gabbard and Kash Patel becoming, part of the administration. But I think it's good that Tulsi Gabbard is doing this, taking away these people's security clearances. When I saw that, all these former neocons, I didn't even know that they were able to keep that shit. That's part of the problem, is these political actors stay on through administration after administration, and they have all kinds of tools, as Chuck Schumer once said. I'm sure you've seen the clip. You shouldn't mess with the intelligence community because they have all kinds of tools to get ways to get back at you, and that's a little bit disgusting. So
Stupid ass boy. Hey, look.
Let's move on to another subject that's near and dear to my heart, which is the war in Ukraine. I'm sure it's near and dear to yours as well. I have a couple clips from the good people at Monday Morning, Katie Halper and Aaron Mate here. And the one that I really want to hone in on is basically this guy from Connecticut, the senator from Connecticut.
Russia, which we sabotage.
Because Aaron, to his genius, kind of pulls up this older clip of this guy. What's his name? Chris something from Connecticut. They're going to show his name in just a minute. Also, unfortunately, their video is out for some of the stream, but you can hear the audio. And he kind of talks about how, Trump ran on ending the war in Ukraine. And you've seen, again, all the people who I don't trust, who lied about the COVID shit, are the same people that are out here, jumping for joy that, Ukraine is shooting missiles into Moscow, or, Putin had to retaliate because Ukraine's firing shit, or what do they attacked one of their air bases. They've done everything in their power to keep this war from ending, basically. And again, Trump is a little bit stupid here, because all he'd have to do is say no more weapons, but they're not going to do that, because that means stock in defense companies might go down. But anyway, I digress. Let me play this clip of Aaron and Katie, and we'll talk about it.
Which, again, even most alternative media outlets, I'm sorry to say, won't even acknowledge that. So maybe 50 years from now, everybody, don't worry, we'll finally get some acknowledgement of the actual root causes of this whole thing. Okay, let's turn to the Democrats. What is their response to all this? Is anybody saying, yeah, maybe diplomacy with another nuclear power is a good thing? Maybe it's time to bring this proxy war to an end? No, that's not the response from Democrats. This is Senator Chris Murphy.
Conversation with Secretary Rubio. We specifically started talking about the fact that President Trump initially said he wanted a ceasefire agreement. Now he wants a broader peace deal. Secretary Rubio defending that approach, basically saying the Russians wouldn't agree to a ceasefire. Do you think that it's the right strategy?
Because a ceasefire doesn't End the war, you dipshit fucking scumbag war pig. Oh my God.
Why don't you go back to your home on Whore
To
Island?
now focus on that broader peace deal.
That meeting was a disaster. It was an embarrassment for the United States. It was a failure. Putin got everything he wanted. I mean, first of all, he wanted that photo op, right? He wanted to be absolved of his war crimes in front of the world. He was invited to the United States. War criminal.
Oh my God. These people just, as this guy takes money from AIPAC, I'm sure, from Israel, he has the nerve to bring up Putin's war crimes. He has some, I would say he has balls, but I wouldn't call these balls because he's also a cracker chicken hawk. He just doesn't have a mustache. But Aaron brings some receipts here that are pretty profound when you listen to how this dipshit's talking right here.
Are not normally invited to the United States of America.
Except for Benjamin Netanyahu, who gets standing ovations, and anybody else who's committing war crimes with U.S. support, then they're more than welcome. And Senator Chris Murphy is more than happy to vote for the bombs that fuel their war crimes. So what is he talking about?
It's ridiculous.
And again,
and Yoav Gallant also, and Mohammed bin Salman, just more war criminals.
Yeah. Sure. And like
Saudi Arabia,
and this
we're allies
to play
with Saudi
armchair
Arabia.
Psychoanalyst of,
and these guys have the nerve to cry about Putin's war crimes. As dumb as it is, just quick sidebar. What Trump said during his Super Bowl interview when they're like, "Well, Putin's a killer," he's like, "We've got killers too. We're bad too." Just that like reality, like acknowledging that we on the world stage as a country, like it or not, have been the bad guys since World War II. People don't want to grapple with that, but Trump had, as flawed and imperfect as Trump is, he's one of the first presidents to actually voice stuff like that out loud without dancing around it in some intellectual fucking, word salad like Obama does.
Of Putin, like Putin really wanted that photo op. He wanted to be absolved. Like, first of all, if you look at the arrest warrant from the ICC of Putin, it's really strange. It doesn't cover the most known alleged Russian atrocities. For example, the massacre that occurred in Bucha, which Russia was accused of. He wasn't even indicted for that. He was indicted for this allegation of mass kidnapping Ukrainian children. But you know what? Ukraine recently gave Russia a list of children it wants back, and the list was 339 children. So the number we got was tens of thousands of Ukrainian children kidnapped by Russia. Ukraine gave a list of 339. So there's a gap there between what was alleged and what Ukraine actually says.
Yeah, and also the children in a lot of cases, from what I understand, and don't quote me on this, but I remember hearing a report, it might have been from the gray zone, that a lot of those children were removed from the war zone. The reason they went into Russia is because they were in a battle zone and they didn't want them to be killed. So they could either go to the Ukraine or go to Russia, and maybe they had relatives in Russia on the other side of the border. Who knows? But it's a little fucking ridiculous. Anyway, I'll let Aaron finish.
Happening. And even there, Russia says that some children were taken to be with their families. Others aren't even in Russia. They're in other countries that Russia can't account for. But regardless, like whatever happened there, like the numbers are way off. And this warrant, as the Gray Zone pointed out in an article, was largely based on a.
When you think about it too, not to keep interrupting here, but who has more of a motivation to lie about this shit? I mean, the idea that more sanctions are going to, cause any problems to Russia. I mean, their economy is stronger than it's ever been, despite all of our sanctions. What you're going to give them more? You think that's really going to matter? But based on the precedent of the last, when did this start? 2022, 3 years. I definitely trust Russia a lot more than I trust Ukraine. Ukraine has a motivation to lie because we're pumping millions and millions of dollars into a lot of people's coffers via this war funding package. And if that goes away, so does their fucking revenue stream. And these people apparently aren't good little savers. They're not putting money away. Zelensky's got a little bit of a habit. So I hear.
U.S. State Department funded group out of Yale, which raises questions about its impartiality, because you're relying on a belligerent in the proxy war to indict another belligerent. So it's a little muddled. And regardless, this whole idea that Putin cares and needs Trump to like absolve him of anything I just don't think there's any basis for that. I think Putin is trying to talk to the other belligerent in the party about ending the war. That's what they're doing. And why someone would object to that is beyond me.
Right.
You can see the dynamic with the Europeans too, because there's clearly a gravy train for them somehow too. And all the stuff with the Nord Stream, wow, all of a sudden Europe has to buy American energy. Shucks. What a problem. You terrible war criminal, Putin. Let's shake our finger at Jesus Christ. Anyway, let me let these guys finish here.
Okay.
Well,
more
it's not
Christmas.
as fun. It's not as fun as the Kremlinology, if you will.
Yes.
He's intentionally murdering civilians. He's kidnapping children. And now he got to stand next to the president of the United States, legitimized in the view of the world. Second, he didn't have to give up any.
In the view of what world? Like
Right.
China, India, Brazil? Like, do they count as the world's biggest countries? Because they're all meeting with Putin. Russia's still a part of BRICS. It's still a part of many other alliances. So when he talks about the world, he means the Beltway, the political media establishment in Washington. That's like I don't know, a few thousand people. No, it's not the world. It's not the world.
Nothing. Right? President Trump said he wanted a ceasefire. It appears the ceasefire wasn't even seriously discussed. And then third, there's no consequences. Trump said, if I don't get a ceasefire, Putin's going to pay a price. And then he walked out of that meeting saying, I didn't get a ceasefire, I didn't get a peace deal, and I'm not even considering sanctions. You heard Secretary Rubio downplay sanctions. And so Putin walks away with his photo op with zero commitments made and zero consequences. What a great...
Even the dog thinks this guy sounds like a weak-ass simp. Imagine being a Democrat right now when your entire political worldview rests on Trump bad, Trump bad. They believe nothing else but Trump bad, Trump bad. That's the Democrat. That should be their campaign slogan for everything from now on, because they stand for nothing but that. And it's clear when you listen to this asshole just rambling on anyway, let me.
Day for Russia.
We're getting to something good here.
Really unprofessional for Meet the Press to have a barking dog on its broadcast.
Sorry, I know, but
no, it wasn't us. It wasn't us.
No, it wasn't us. Yeah.
It wasn't us. We're gonna write them a letter of complaint. We're sorry, everybody.
It was
Meet the Press on behalf.
Yeah, and that was, of course, a prop from Chris Murphy showing Wag the dog. Wag the dog. Who controls what? Yeah.
Okay, well, listen.
The dog just heard bullshit on the TV and lost its mind. The dog's like, who the fuck is that war-selling simp of a bitch? Trump bad. Trump bad.
Since we just heard from Chris Murphy, and we've been talking about the root causes, which corporate media wants us to believe is the root cause of the Ukraine war is just Russia invading, okay, in February 2022.
No, the root cause, to be fair, it's actually better than that, Aaron. It's the root causes of Russia invading is Russia invading.
Russia invading, yes. Okay. So Russia invades in February 2022, and that's when we're told the whole thing begins. Let's go back to February 2014, just for a flashback. And since we just heard from Chris Murphy, let's hear from Chris Murphy himself back in February 2014. And this is a clip that should be played, I think, on loop for any show that wants to tell people the story of Ukraine.
So I took Aaron's advice here. He says right here he wants Progressive Podcast to show this clip. So Aaron, you're the king. Everybody enjoy. Aaron's
especially urging our colleagues in alternative media, progressive media, especially those that have been advancing the U.S. proxy war narrative, go back and play clips like this. Steal our work. Listen to Chris Murphy back in February 2014 and listen to what he said about the U.S. role in the coup that ousted Yanukovych, which then leads to the war that we're still fighting now.
I will admit to you that I have not been involved in what's happening in Venezuela. over the last week because I've been focused as the chairman of the Europe subcommittee on Ukraine. But with respect to Ukraine, we have not sat on the sidelines. We have been very much involved. Members of the Senate who have been there, members of the State Department who have been on the square. The administration, the Obama administration, passed sanctions. The Senate was prepared to pass its own set of sanctions. And as I said, I really think that the clear position of the United States has in part been what has helped lead to this change in regime. So,
hear that? It's the clear position of the U.S. that has helped in part
you
lead
go
to
back
this
to your
change
home on
in
Whore
regime.
Island.
Okay, so Chris Murphy back in February 2014 was acknowledging that the U.S. was involved in regime change.
He's a Putinist, I guess. He's a Putinist.
Yeah, well, exactly. So, like, you think maybe the U.S. openly taking credit for regime change in Ukraine might be a potential root cause of this conflict that might need to be addressed?
Right.
This is Chris Murphy himself. This wasn't Putin saying that. This was Chris Murphy.
Right.
A lot of other evidence as well.
Putin went back in time and made Chris Murphy say Putin propaganda. That's what happened. That's my bet. Those sneaky Russians, they have a time machine. They went back in time and made Chris Murphy say Putin talking points. That's what happened, Aaron. You know it.
It's interesting that they didn't have a playback for that prepared.
So anyway, I want to urge progressive media colleagues who either have ignored the Ukraine story or have, I think, unfortunately parroted a lot of propaganda because of the influence of some dupes on the left who buy into all this stuff. Listen to Chris Murphy and play clips like that. Educate your audience on the real story here. That's just my suggestion. Okay, let's move on to Jason Crow. He is another Democrat. And let's hear his thoughts on the Putin-Trump summit.
So we're going to duck out there, but the Democrats are clearly scumbags who support this war because Trump bad. Trump bad.
Stupid ass boy. Hey, look.
Don't tase me, bro. Don't tase me.
All right. The Democrats are not alone in their scumbaggery, okay? And we all know that. You know, both the major parties are garbage. But the Republicans, now that they have the reins of power, are back to their old tricks with imperialism. This time in the oil-rich nation of Venezuela. Imagine that. Suddenly there's a dictator in a country that happens to have a lot of oil. Who would have thunk it? And all the claims that I've seen about Maduro to date are complete trash. Complete fucking manufactured nonsense. Oh, the people don't really like him. The people live in poverty. Yeah, bro, we have the internet, okay? We can see that you guys are full of shit. This is the same kind of shit. You hear the same common threads in all these bootlicking chicken hawk cracker fucks that push these wars, and it's like nails on a chalkboard. But one of the latest people to turn into one of these chicken hawk cracker McFucksticks is your boy Alex Jones. And this was pretty wild. This was definitely a turn I did not see coming. But here's Alex Jones. I'll say it. I'm for removing the Venezuelan dictatorship. Alex Jones lays out why he supports President Trump's moves to take down Maduro. I don't like any of these wars, but this is our sandbox. What does that even mean? This is our sandbox? We don't own Venezuela because it's on the same continent as us. I don't like regime change, but they are manipulating our elections and flooding us with fentanyl. Yeah, another myth. I want to see, what's the fucking proof of this, that it's Venezuela flooding us with fentanyl? I think it's Big Pharma flooding us with fentanyl that's made in China with their money. But don't quote me on that. I haven't really gone into the weeds on this yet. Maybe I should do an investigative piece on that. But call it a fucking hunch, but it's a pretty well-founded hunch, okay? Anyway, they're manipulating our elections, flooding us with fentanyl. I'm not one to ever push offensive stuff, but They started it, so it's for defense. Sorry, that's my Alex Jones. I need to work on my Alex Jones. It's really defense. Whether you're for it or not, it's not about to, it's about to happen. Listen, that last line, I don't think he's wrong about. It's going to happen whether we want it to happen or not. But I don't support it. And I don't think any American who is asked, hey, do you support an invasion of Venezuela, would support it. So I'm going to jump up next here to a quick clip for y'all. But before I do that, I would like to show you this quick little factoid that I think you're going to appreciate. Here it is. Oil reserves by country. Venezuela has the world's largest oil reserves. The world's largest. Second is Saudi Arabia. Third is Canada. Fourth is Iran. Okay. Now these wars make a lot more sense. But there is a plot twist here with Maduro that I did not see coming, and I'm about to share it with you. So let's get into it. Watch this clip of your boy Maduro. Well, first of all, let's listen to Alex in person do his pro-war rant.
Not Gulf 2, not now. I don't like any of these wars. Not Gulf 1, not Gulf 2, not Afghanistan, all of it. I've been against all these wars, Ukraine war, all of it.
But this one is okay. This one's actually going to be for a good cause.
Oh, I hear you. It's definitely a tiger by the tail. But if you look at U.S. doctrine and wars that we fought before that were right, it's in Latin America. This is our sandbox.
Okay, again, what war did we fight in Latin America that was right, Alex? Please pontificate on that one for me. Name the war we fought in South America that was a just war, please.
And Venezuela is a communist dictatorship with the biggest oil reserves per square foot in the world. Okay. Their people are absolute slaves.
Their people are they really? This is the part. Listen, if you guys in the comments here have proof that there's real slavery happened in Venezuela, I'm happy to listen to it. I'm definitely open to hearing that. But to me, this just sounds again like, hey, well, we got to do this for God and country and puppies and kittens and, whatever you need. They got a lot of oil. Come on. The communist dictator. What do you need? What do you need? What do you need? What do you need? Now, here's the plot twist I did not see coming. This is why, even though Iran is a good target, and they're anti-Semites, this is the plot twist I did not see coming. You're going to appreciate this one. Holy shit.
Le han permitido la masacre de Gaza, de Cisjordania, contra el pueblo palestino de Netanyahu y han callado. Los han armado, le han dado dinero, aviones, misiles para que mate a miles de niños, de niñas, de hombres, de mujeres, de viejitos. La humanidad y Naciones Unidas y todos los organismos de Naciones Unidas han callado
President Maduro
frente a la destrucción del 80% de los apartamentos, las casas, las escuelas, las mezquitas y los hospitales de la Franja de Gaza y el asesinato de miles de hombres y mujeres inocentes.
All of which has been used in attacks on Palestine, Lebanon, Syria, Yemen, and
por redes sociales hemos visto
and so Empire of Lies here
un genocidio
retweeted this.
Contra el pueblo palestino transmitido en vivo y directo.
Maduro, watch this.
Naciones Unidas ha permitido el bombardeo y la destrucción de Beirut y del Líbano.
I don't even know that it's Trump that hates Maduro. I think he's been convinced by the likes of people like Netanyahu and Marco Rubio. That's the other dynamic is, Marco Rubio is a Florida guy, right? And there's a lot of, if you know the Florida dynamic, which I don't claim to be an expert, maybe someone from Florida can correct me if I'm wrong here, but to my understanding, there's a very large Cuban population in Florida that, were like the barons of industry who lost out when the communist, revolution happened and equaled the playing field for everybody, and they're very bitter about that. So they want to overthrow, that country, and of course, they will have positions of power being on the side of the United States. I think there's a similar dynamic going on here with Venezuela. And Marco Rubio tried to do this. They tried to do this when Trump was president. Remember Juan Guaido? They tried to do this when Trump was president before, and it didn't work because Venezuelans are clearly smarter than that. They're like, no, we're not buying your fucking Spanish Obama impersonator, you dumb Americans. But again, this right here, I think, is why Maduro is a primary target, even more so than the communist, stuff. And to my understanding, Maduro's biggest crime is they have nationalized the profits of, I think it's Citgo, correct me if I'm wrong there, whatever the Venezuelan, national oil company is. And so people are profit sharing. People are getting, the citizens, it's not taken by some fucking, vampire company, some fucking corporation, soulless corporation that will just, holy shit. So quick sidebar here. I watched the movie Killers of the Flower Moon. Have you seen that? Holy shit. My biggest takeaway from that is, holy shit, people are fucking slime that will do anything for money. And if you've, I don't want to ruin the movie for you, but to give you kind of the overview of what's going on, there's this tribe of Indians called the Osage who were awarded, property in Oklahoma that they found oil on. What followed was a bunch of white people moved to that area, started marrying into their families and murdering everyone, poisoning them so they could take their oil rights. That's how disgusting. And to the point where they were murdering their own wives and children and relatives, and it's just like, you watch that stuff happen and it's just like, holy shit, man, people are fucking, we have a long history of just being like very ugly, disgusting people, when you see that, it's just holy shit. And I think it really affected me because the Leo DiCaprio's wife in the movie kind of reminds me of my own mother. She kind of looks like my mom. But great movie. Scorsese fucking did it again. DiCaprio, say what you want about him. He's a fucking phenomenal actor. He bankrolls most of these movies too and gets Scorsese on board with them. I don't know if you know that, but wow. That movie, oh fuck, it's so good. It's one of Scorsese's best in a long time, I think, because it's the subject matter is different than, but it's still dark. It's still, nuanced. It still makes a lot of statements, and wow, what a killer movie. But again, it's like this dynamic. I bring this up, this colonial, this fucking scummy, let's take these people's fucking natural resources attitude goes way back for us. We've been doing this for a long, long time, and it's fucking disgusting. And just to cap this off, the disgusting in chief. That's Trump's new nickname, the disgusting in chief. Here he is.
How about we're buying oil from Venezuela? When I left, Venezuela was ready to collapse. We would have taken it over. We would have gotten all that oil. It would have been right next door. But now we're buying oil from Venezuela, so we're making a dictator very rich. Can you believe this? Nobody can believe it. You know where the oil, their oil is
Nobody's
garbage.
ever seen
It's
anything
horrible.
like
The worst
it.
you can get tar. It's like tar. And to refine it, you need special plants. And these, how about we're buying oil from Venezuela?
Ain't that America for you and me?
Anyway, disgusting, very disgusting stuff we're witnessing. I really hope, I don't want to like root for America to lose. I never like to do that. I love my country. I love the people here. We're good people, I think. I don't think we have, despite voting, it's not like we have a lot of control over what these pigs do, these fucking disgusting pigs. But I do kind of hope, anyone, like if they try to invade Venezuela, they get their asses handed to them. Like, I hate to say that, but, and if I was in the military and they asked me to invade Venezuela, I would fucking drop out of the military. That's probably why I'm not in the military. It's a good thing that they didn't hire me, or I didn't get that desperate, but, and again, I'm not rooting for the downfall of America. I love my country. If it came down to it, I would fight for the United States. If if I had to. Actually, right now, I don't know. Let's be honest. If I'm keeping it 100 right now, it would be a real tough sell for me to fight for the United States. The United States has not been good to us. And there was a point, Adam Carolla made this point, I think on Jimmy Dore's show, when they were talking about how home ownership creates loyalty that you can't otherwise create. And it's almost like we live in a world where like people like me have nothing to lose. You know, a lot of people have nothing to lose because they don't have any investments. They've been cut out of like owning a piece of property in this country. And that's a bad dynamic to have. The number one thing we should be working on fixing, well, the two things we should be fixing on is making sure everyone's covered with healthcare whenever they need it and affordable housing. Those are the two biggest things. I think the left and right could come together on those two issues in a lot of ways. It might be a hybrid, you know, it might be not be full, you know, Bernie Sanders, Medicare for all, but it might be a hybrid of that, you know, and the same thing with housing. I mean, you hear Tucker Carlson and Marjorie Taylor Greene talking about how their kids can't afford homes. And you know what? Why? Why do we allow this? The whole point of voting is to change that kind of thing. And then you see how these demons, these demon pig fucks infiltrate the government and just hold on to their positions there and rape the shit out of the taxpayer year after year after year. And it's like, you know, I don't think that the Trump administration is necessarily a break from that either. I'm as cynical as you are. I don't, you know, but there's enough of a shakeup that it's a step in the right direction. You know, challenge to the status quo, a shakeup of the status quo. What Tulsi Gabbard's doing at DNI, taking away people's security clearance, what RFK is doing at HHS, you know, slowly inching us away from a industry-run regulator in that, you know, don't even get me started on the pandemic, because I was an early skeptic and I got a lot of shit for it, and I might have even lost my job because of it. But that's neither here nor there. Let's keep moving. We've talked about Venezuela. We've talked about John Bolton. Let's return to one of my favorite subjects, which is Russiagate. And I just want to share this clip with you a little bit because Bill Maher, you know, Bill Maher has a very influential voice, and I always respected Bill Maher as being an outspoken pot smoker, like before it was safe to be an outspoken pot smoker, because there's this mythology that people have, especially conservatives lately, like, oh, pot smokers are just burnouts who never do anything. Fuck you. Some of the hardest working people I know are pot smokers. They smoke daily. So suck my balls. Clearly, I'm very emotional about this subject. So the point I'm getting to here is Bill Maher is someone who I always respected for having the balls to be very outward about his love for marijuana, because I have that same love. So I always respected him. But this is one of those things. The Russiagate narrative is one of these things that these people will not let go, because if they let go of this, if they acknowledge how fake this is, so many other things fall apart. So many other, Russia hacked the election, becomes questionable. The Ukraine war, the entire premise for the Ukraine war becomes questionable. If this is like a Jenga piece, that if this gets removed, the whole tower is at risk of falling apart. So I'm just going to show you. This is Megyn Kelly talking to Walter Kern, who, by the way, Walter Kern and Matt Taibbi's Monday This Week in America is one of my favorite new podcasts. I fucking love both of those guys, and they do like book reviews. It's so good. I try to take clips from it, but it's a little tougher to get clips from because it's a little more long form. They're kind of more chatty. They're kind of like bantering, and plus Matt's not really like he's not really a charismatic dude. But I love him. Don't get me wrong. You understand what I mean though. He's kind of got like the same kind of tone as like a Lex Friedman, right? But Matt obviously far superior to Lex Friedman. Anyway, watch this.
You went on Bill Maher show on Friday night, and you were there with leftist Molly Jung Fast, and she was very upset
about.
Okay, Molly Jong-Fast is not a leftist. Let's just Democrat. She's not a leftist. Sorry.
The meeting with Putin on Friday. Here's just one of the things she said. She speaks for many liberals in this. SAL 11.
Crush some norms, having him walk across a red carpet while Trump clapped. I mean, that generally,
oh, come
Putin
on.
doesn't get...
Are we really going to go through this kind of bullshit? Like it's like, Obama wore a tan suit and he saluted with coffee in his hand. Who gives a shit what he walked across?
See, that is 100% fair. And I may have touched on this earlier, but I do see a similar dynamic in the outrage over Trump to what I saw from the right over Obama when Obama became president. Now, in the case of the right's outrage over Obama, a lot of it was racial, let's be honest, because the people that were suddenly concerned about government overreach under Obama did not say a word about it when George Bush was president, right? That's my only beef. And listen, I think there were, looking back, to be fair to my conservative cohorts, a lot of their criticisms were valid. And the racism thing was used to blunt that criticism. So it is a double-edged sword, But I'm calling a spade a spade.
There's people dying over there.
That was good. That was good, Bill Maher. But then there was bad Bill Maher. There was a moment of bad Bill Maher where he got up in your grill, Walter, and he was wrong about this.
It was because of good Bill Maher. It was because of good Bill Maher that I felt I could speak to him reasonably, but he didn't like it the second time.
No, he did not, because then you guys got into Russiagate, switching from Russia to Russiagate or Obamagate, depending on your preference. But the meltdown of the whole story.
See, and that's the other thing about the Russiagate thing that I think is a mistake for conservative, political people to make about trying to tie it all around Obama's neck. Like, it's Obama. It's like, no, it's not Obama. Like, yeah, he signed off on it. Yeah, he was aware of it, whatever. It's really Clapper and Brennan and those guys are careerists. They're fucking deep staters who were pissed off that they didn't get their safe lateral move into the next administration because the voters didn't give it to them. So they had to gin something up to try and flip the board. That's exactly what this is all boils. Obama's like a NPC in this fucking story. He's of no consequence. He was getting ready to skate back out to his comfortable post-presidential life in the Hamptons or fucking Maine or whatever, Cape fucking whatever.
Around Donald Trump and the alleged Russian collusion that's been happening in this country for the past 2 months, thanks to Tulsi Gabbard. So Bill Maher was not listening to you, Walter Kern, when you tried to explain to him that what happened allegedly in 15-16 between Trump and Russia was not a scandal, and what the Democrats did to Trump around Russia in that same time frame and ever after is a scandal. And here's a little of how that went in SOT 4.
Which I think I don't think he was exactly a Russian agent, but, Russiagate was not, completely made up.
Well, Bill, there we disagree.
I know.
Okay. Just that statement alone is rich. I don't think he was actually a Russian agent, but Russiagate was not completely made up. Yes, it was. Fuck. Okay, what was he then? Like, what was the point of all that, Bill? If fucking it wasn't just made up nonsense. The thing, again, that makes me so angry about this is Clinton paid a goddamn FEC fine for the dossier that all of this was based on. And no one mentions that. And even the language, again, from the people that I don't fucking trust, the COVID pushers, even the language in the articles that came out when Clinton paid that fine is dicey. They're like, well, a conservative group made it happen. And conservative group, Republicans, they partisanized the law in these articles. So anyway.
Out day by day that it was almost completely made up.
Oh, please. It's on tape. He's asking the Russians for help on tape, which he gave them that day. They released those emails that day that they hacked. He said, could you please hack some shit? They did it and released it that day to help him. So don't tell me there's no smoke. Let's not.
Again, as someone who worked in fraud detection in the online advertising world, I was dealing with bot traffic and bots in the 2007. When this story broke, I went, okay, what's the proof that Russia hacked the Democrats? Because I know a thing or two about computers. I'm not a hacker. I'm not claiming to be like expert IT man, but I know some shit about how these things work. So I wanted to look under the hood. I was curious, what is the actual basis for the claim that the Democratic Party was hacked and leaked? And the basis for the claim is a company they hired, a contractor they gave probably millions of dollars to. And that same contractor under oath said they didn't have any real proof that Russia hacked the Democrats. So that's another tiny little fact that's very well known in circles of people who care about the truth, but not so much among people like Bill Maher, whose entire worldview is based on, of the last 10 years, is based on this fallacy that Russia fucking tried to hack our election. Trump bad. Trump bad.
Okay, let's not relitigate that year.
Well, we are relitigating it because it's before a grand jury right now, and we'll find out who...
Okay, but let me ask a broader question, because first, I take your point. I think it's kind of a zombie lie that Trump is...
Trump bad, brains, Trump bad. That's a zombie lie.
Putin's, bitch, because, I mean, he certainly was over-friendly to him for a very long time, considering who Putin is, a thug and a murderer.
In 2015, Obama met...
Oh, my God. Like, Bill Maher made a movie called Religulous, and, like, he's supposed to be this, like, sharp intellectual, and he's like, Putin's a thug and a murderer. Oh, a thug and a murderer. He sounds like a conservative Christian woman, you know? Putin is as much a thug or a murderer as George Bush was, as Dick Cheney was, your fucking presidents, people you'd probably have on your show, Bill. Why are these people so mentally fucking pussified and into this, again, their entire reality is built on this fucking house of cards, and Russiagate is that Jenga piece that takes the whole tower down.
I mean, nobody said anything in New York.
Met him. He didn't praise him. He didn't say he's the greatest guy in the world. I could read 20 compliments that Trump has given to him. He said he's a fun guy to be with.
Remember when George Bush said, I looked in his eyes and he's a good man back in the day? I mean, this is just ridiculous.
No, that's Epstein.
Okay. So what a red herring by Maher there, Walter, bringing up the Trump comments about, oh, Putin, if you're listening, that's his evidence that Trump colluded with Putin. I mean, in a way, I appreciate him saying it, because that's what a lot of leftists think.
Oh, I mean, it's an insane and ridiculous assertion. If you think about the mechanics of that, Trump says something on TV. Putin, who happens to be watching American TV or whatever, said, hey, let's go hack them. Trump just asked for it.
Great idea.
Yeah, can you imagine that meeting? Like, sir, we saw on American television the Mr. Trump who running for president. He requests us to hack the Democrats. Putin's like, let it be done.
But ain't that America for you and me? Ain't that America?
Let's go do it. Oh, and then he somehow releases it back to the American media all in an afternoon. None of that happened. None of it could have happened if you want to think it through. But let's think
You're an
about
anti-Semite.
Which was really Hillary throwing a SHIT fit over, having lost, but one that she started long before because she had all this email exposure and other things, has been used to keep us apart from Russia, to keep Trump from meeting Putin, to keep I would say the run up to the Ukraine war, which was happening while Trump.
No, I would venture part of it is Hillary's tantrum, but like I said earlier, a bigger part of it is the people who are going to be in her administration's tantrum, who still had access to a lot of powerful things that they could use to shape the public perception, like John Brennan and James Clapper and James Comey. And
was president. Remember, they impeached him for just trying to talk to Zelensky. Remember? I mean, he the perfect phone call. Trump was hampered and put in manacles as far as Russia policy from the beginning by this series of gross exaggerations and outright lies, many of which are now the stuff of grand jury investigations. And I promise you will continue to be debunked and even shown to be conspiracies of some kind. Maybe not indictable ones, or maybe not ones that will end in prosecutions, but they may. And day by day, we're going to get that news, and we have been getting it. Bill Maher has apparently been on vacation all of August because we've had more case closed news about the ways in which the intelligence community and the law enforcement community, if you include the FBI, got together and with zero evidence and with this crappy Steele dossier, which is, less real than one of my novels, tried to keep this guy from taking office and then from holding it, and certainly keep him from negotiating as a peer with Putin. And Molly Jong Fast and Bill suggesting that no one has ever complimented.
I kept asking myself before he finishes his point, I kept asking myself, why can't we be friends with Russia? And the answer is because if we are, we can't sell weapons to a conflict with them. And who else are we going to sell weapons for a conflict behind? Especially now that the Israel things kind of hit full steam. Because even if that ends badly for them, it's not like they have anything else left to destroy in Gaza, And we've already kind of seen that Iran might actually fight back. So that's not going to bode well for the region if that continues. So now it's Venezuela, I guess, right?
Putin in the past. Hillary went there with a freaking button to hit a reset with Medvedev. They brought props. George Bush saw the good man that he was when he looked into his eyes, remember? Many people have had compliments for the Russian leader. And I can't even think of what Trump's are, really. He met him in Helsinki once, and they came around him and made it an almost impossible situation, and that was it. We've been kept.
Bill Maher has been on the wrong side of the Russiagate story from the beginning. I mean, and he's been
that again is why he can't let go of it, because he'd have to admit he was wrong about something, and Bill Maher ain't doing that. He's so much like Trump. It's funny how the people who hate Trump the most are the most like him. It's that shadow thing, the Jungian shadow thing. You have people like Keith Olbermann.
Now, I'll confess that I have licked Joe Biden's dick all the way through since 1975.
Who are every bit as self-assured and unwilling to admit that they're wrong as Donald Trump is, and that's why they hate him so much. He reminds them of a part of themselves they don't like.
Main pusher of the nonsense. Your cohort on your podcast, Matt Taibbi, wrote a long piece about it after that exchange with Maher, pointing out that when the whole, when Russiagate fell apart, and it was obvious that Mueller did not have the goods on Trump, Bill Maher had Eric Swalwell on and said to him, well, I don't need the Mueller report to know that he, meaning Trump, is a traitor. I have a TV. And as Taibbi put it, this has been his story ever since.
I have a TV. Never has a more intellectual statement ever been made. I know it because I have a TV. Damn it. I have a TV.
Don't tase me, bro. Don't tase me. I didn't do anything. Ow! Ow! Ow!
And he too is sticking with it. I mean, that's like Bill, with all due respect to Bill, has been hashtag part of the problem on Russiagate, and therefore, not shockingly, I guess, cannot see its complete dismantling. And really, like all the motivations and the crafting of all the lies that are coming out day by day, like the revelations about the crafting, he cannot see it with objective eyes, and maybe isn't even trying. I don't know, but like,
no, he's way too arrogant to admit that he was wrong about something.
First of all, you're wrong. That's just a fucking stupid way to start a conversation.
So you like the sneering, oh, come on to you. It's on tape, as though this has all been settled years ago. We saw and heard it with our own eyes and ears.
A lot of what these media people do, especially at the level of cable news and cable TV and network TV.
That's insulting.
TV is they give the audience permission to close its mind. You don't need to learn anything more about this. You already know. Yes. Stick with what we said 5 years ago, and we'll tell you if there's any revision. They do it with COVID. They do it with every issue. You know, it always takes time to excavate the truth about issues, especially ones that have been presented as having only one side by the mainstream media. Then it takes years, between the establishment resistance and the media's resistance to get at the truth. Then as you get at it, they come out and say, it's old news. You already formed an opinion. Don't change it. If you want to change it, we'll let you know when. Until then, move on. And
we might change it when we get a new president in there who does exactly the same stuff, and then we'll see it entirely differently. We promise, as long as it's a Democrat in there. But you just listen. Trump tweeted out today, or Truth Socialed out today, something to the effect of, "I could have Putin give us St. Petersburg and Moscow, and this press would still be like, it's a fail." Somehow, whatever. We don't want the hassle of having all those beautiful river canals in St. Petersburg. We don't want riverfront property where we can sip our wine. It's a fail. He should have got.
He's right about that. And also, Americans don't know how bad Ukraine is getting their ass whipped. People who don't see the videos of conscription and stuff on Twitter and don't know how full of shit the Ukrainians and their media is, because they're paid to be that way by U.S. interests, don't know that the Ukraine is fucked. Russia is handing them their ass, even with our weapons. And Russia is having no problem getting around our sanctions because they have the BRICS alliance. So they can sell their oil to China and Brazil and India. They don't need us. And we have I think it was Russell Dobular who coined this term, so I want to give him credit, but he said the arrogance of impunity. I think he said it in relation to our buddies in the Middle East, but it applies here too, because it applies to the United States. Our arrogance of impunity has led to this, to where our sanctions are meaningless, because we've just been the belligerent pigs on the world stage for the last, 50 years, since World War II, frankly. And now it's coming around. And so, I think people like Trump, who kind of see the big picture and has to deal with it, he understands that Russia's winning. And it doesn't matter how many weapons we fucking funnel into Ukraine, Russia's going to win. They are a vastly larger country with vastly more resources and people. And in a war of attrition, they're going to fucking win. Ukraine doesn't have nukes either. But again, there's so many dynamics here, and the U.S. needs a demon to sell weapons behind. That's our biggest problem, to be honest. Have you ever seen the movie Lord of War with Nicolas Cage? I'm really getting off the rails here, but if you haven't seen that, Nicolas Cage and Jared Leto, it's actually about a guy from Ukraine who's a weapons arms dealer, and it came out I think in the 90s, maybe the early 2000s. Don't quote me, but see it. Good movie. Anyway, let's close this out tonight. We've already been on for almost 2 hours. I have a really great story to share with you. This is one of those rare instances where Fox News served me up something that was actually pretty stellar. And I have some comments to make about it because it is Fox News, but let's watch it. This is in regards to South Park. So they found this woman who's a voice actor. If you're a fan of South Park like I am, they found this woman who was in the Panderverse episode. Have you seen that where Cartman and Stan and Kyle get replaced by black women and stuff? They replace them with ethnic minorities as a DEI thing for the movies. So there's a black woman that plays Cartman voices him in that episode because he's been converted into a black woman. And Fox News dug her up, and apparently she's a Trump supporter. And this is just a really interesting conversation, and I have a lot to say about it. So we'll be prepared for me to inject my commentary.
Now to this, love it or hate it, the show South Park pulls no punches. It's an equal opportunity offender. The latest episode.
These are the twerpiest dudes hosting Fox News. I love that word too, twerp. That's what these guys remind me of. They're the twerpiest little dudes.
Mocks Trump's D.C. crime crackdown. Others mock the vice president and Charlie Kirk. And we both know, and they all know apparently, how to take a joke. Because Vance responded, well, I finally made it. Charlie Kirk posted, not bad, with laughing emojis. An earlier South Park special called Joining the Panderverse mocks Disney movies for perceived pandering to the left. In the episode, the main characters are replaced by a group of diverse women.
You guys, something really weird is going on. I keep having the same dream that I'm a fat little white boy.
You ain't white, but you definitely fat.
This is serious, Cal. It's more than a dream. It's becoming like real now.
The actress who voices the female version of Eric Cartman is a real-life Trump supporter. Janisha Adams Gainier joins me now. Janisha, thanks for being with us here today. So first of all, I understand you're a Trump supporter. And yet, all the talk today is the new season of South Park is out, and it's going after Donald Trump.
Yes. First of all, thank you for having me, Will. I am a Trump supporter. I am not ashamed to say it. I voted for him 3 times.
Does it bother you? Everyone is talking.
She seems very cool and very fun. I like this woman. Did I just start it over? Yeah, I did. God damn it.
Joins me now. Janisha, thanks for being with us here today. So first of all, I understand you're a Trump supporter. And yet,
I voted for him 3 times.
Does it bother you? Everyone is talking about, the way that South Park is going after Trump. And obviously we see that Vance and Kirk can take a joke. Does it bother you at all to be a part of something that's taking shots at a guy that you support in Donald Trump?
No, it doesn't bother me because I understand that South Park is entertainment. It's TV, and we watch it, we laugh. We don't have to agree with everything they say, but
you could make the argument that South Park themselves have joined the Panderverse by going after Trump. They're pandering to a certain audience demographic, aren't they?
our president can take a joke, and he's gonna keep giving them content because he's gonna keep giving out wins. So everyone better be ready.
It's amazing. It's amazing how those two guys come up with that content every week in the news cycle, responding to current events.
See, you gotta love this too. Just like, listen, that guy, I called him a twerp, but he seems like a good dude. And clearly they understand South Park and are fans of the show. He's like, these guys are geniuses. They come out with this content like every week. It's topical. It's what's the word? Timely. But despite them going after their hero Trump, these guys are very, kind to Matt and Trey, as they should be. Matt and Trey are the shit.
I would, for now, they are focused on Donald Trump, but there's a lot of other really ripe characters out there in news and politics that they can go after, right?
Yes, they can go after so many other people. I don't know why our president is first of all, let's make sure we continue to call him President Trump and put some respect on his name, okay?
Yes, okay.
We're going to keep doing that because they keep disrespecting him on that level. But there's so many other people that they can go after, and I want them to go after Gavin Newsom.
Oh, it's got to be so ripe, Janisha, right? Like, at this point, you got to look at Trey and Matt and go, you've got to pick that fruit off the tree. That fruit's just too ripe. It's too juicy. You've got to go after Gavin Newsom.
Speaking of going after Gavin Newsom, I want to take this opportunity to show you a clip I saw on TikTok that I thought was very relevant. And I'm not a fan of Nick Fuentes, but this came up in my feed. For some reason, they're pushing this guy. And this was actually pretty damn legit. Check this out. This is Nick Fuentes talking about Gavin Newsom. I missed it.
Over the weekend, there was a meme that went super viral, and it is not even really a meme so much as it is two photographs of the governor of California, Gavin Newsom, and the vice president, J.D. Vance. And it's a comparison. And the comparison is this. J.D. Vance is fat and ugly, and Gavin Newsom is tall and handsome. But it gets better. J.D. Vance is fat and ugly and has an Indian wife who is the daughter of immigrants, and his kids are all brown. And Gavin Newsom has a beautiful white wife and beautiful white children. And this innocent little comparison. Whoa! Why is everybody getting so crazy? Everybody just calm down. Let's not blow this out of proportion. Isn't it just interesting? Isn't it funny that the presumptive nominee from the nativist, white nationalist, anti-immigrant, mass deportations party of aesthetics and fascist bodybuilders is a fat, ugly piece of with the Brown family. Isn't that just funny? I mean, we don't need to be serious. We can just relax, can't we? And we can all just acknowledge that it is a little bit funny and it is a little bit ironic. And it's also ironic that Gavin Newsom, the Democrat, perhaps the likely nominee from the party of the woke, BLM, pro-Hamas, race communists, he's got a family out of like a...
See, I reject that characterization. The pro-Hamas, come on, grandma. Like, thanks, is my Israel, what do they call Baba or whatever they call fucking grandma in Israel?
Postcard. It's a postcard from 1930s Germany. Isn't that just a little ironic? Isn't that a little unexpected?
It's a postcard from 1930s. I mean, it is a valid point. It is a funny point. It is and I'll give Fuentes credit. He's a good broadcaster. He has a good voice. He has a good cadence. He's got like a radio voice. I don't have to agree with everything the guy says, but that is funny. I missed that too. And it just goes to show you again that I don't trust the people who sold the COVID shit. And neither should you. But one more thing I want to show you before we go about Fuentes. I thought this was another interesting thing. Never judge a book by its cover, because here's what, since we're showing Fuentes clips, here's what Fuentes had to say about Republicans.
Tell you something about voting Republican. And you need to listen and listen well. I'm a 27-year-old white man. The Republican Party has never, ever in my entire life done anything for me to make my life better, to make my life easier. Never, never. What are the kinds of issues that I'm facing? Home ownership is unaffordable. Has the Republican Congress done anything about that? Absolutely not. The job market is cooked. It's cooked because of H-1B visas. It's cooked because of skilled and low-skilled immigration. Has the GOP done anything about that? Absolutely not. They sent us to war in Iraq, Afghanistan. Now they want us to fight a war in Iran. This country's cooked because of feminism.
And Venezuela.
Things like no-fault divorce have made marriage very unattractive. Do Republicans even talk about that? Absolutely not. College is unaffordable. Have the Republicans tried to wipe student loans or make college more affordable? Absolutely not. Name one thing that the Republican Party has ever done explicitly for young white men for their direct and tangible benefit. They have done nothing. They cut the corporate tax rate. They bombed Iran and Syria for Israel. They moved the embassy. They've deregulated the oil and gas industry, deregulated the tech industry. They've done all these things for the billionaire oligarchs, all these things for the business interests, for the foreign interests. They've even done things for women and minorities in an effort to appease them, to expand their vote with those groups. They've done nothing for me, ever. And yet, they act like they own me. They expect my vote.
Spitting truth there, Mr. Fuentes. The same could be said about the Democrats as well. For anyone, whether you're black, white, Asian, doesn't matter. Just on a class basis, neither of these parties have done jack shit for anyone in the working class in years. And that's why someone like Trump is, I think, again, so there are elements of him that are pleasing because he pisses these people off to no end, and they're throwing a tantrum. People like John Bolton, who have been in government for years and years, just milking the teat and doing absolutely nothing but starting unnecessary wars and making cash and going on TV and whimpering about some nonsense. You know, it's good to see a guy like that get some kind of a bitch slap and see his house raided. Let's see where it goes from here. But like I said earlier, it's a pretty safe bet. All the people who are accusing Trump of being a Russian spy and stuff have some skeletons in their closet to that effect, because thou doth protest. That's a very that's one of those cliches that holds real true to this day. So, you know, to close things out tonight, I like to show one of my creative little music videos or some bullshit like that. And Aaron Mate has been on the brain, especially in this particular episode tonight. So I think we're going to close out tonight by, first I want to show you this chart because it's been a while since I played it, but this is a great chart. And while you watch this, I'm going to dig up this clip of Aaron Mate that I turned into a song about the balloons, the Chinese balloon. Do you remember the Chinese balloon? This is how fucking ridiculous our government is, that they would get militarized over a goddamn Chinese spy balloon. God, this is fucking pathetic. Anyway, I'm going to play this for you on the way out. This is the Aaron Mate hit, Balloon Boys. Thank you all for tuning in tonight. I got love for you. Like and subscribe if you haven't already. And hit me up in the comments. Let me know, how things are going for you out there. If you have some feedback on any of the points that I made tonight, I would love to hear it. And again, just thank you all for fucking sticking with me over the last couple of years as I grow this channel and rant endlessly on it. I appreciate having an audience. Like I said, I do this a lot just to keep my relationships in check with all the liberals and people that I deal with on a day-to-day basis. This is a good way for me to spit the venom out onto the internet so they don't have to hear it from me when we're, having lunch or something. Anyway, thank you guys. Here it is. My number one hit, featuring Aaron Mate, Balloon Boys. Enjoy it, my friends. We'll see you next time.
Well, should we hear more from Mr. McCall?
Yeah, definitely.
He's a balloon boy, by the way. He's one of the balloon boys because he was one of those Republicans who was advocating higher military spending after the U.S. shut down a balloon, a Chinese weather balloon, and then 3 hobbyist balloons. And then he was one of the Republicans who was saying that Biden is weak on China and we need to spend more money on the military. So I call him a balloon boy. So I call him a balloon boy. So I call him a balloon boy. 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 A balloon boy. A balloon boy. 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 Balloon boy.
Yeah. Pop it.
We could have taken it down in open water without causing any casualties or any concerns on U.S. soil. The fact that we've allowed this to enter U.S. airspace is a direct result of the fact that Joe Biden is just weak, and he's viewed as weak on a global scale.
Balloon boy.
I knew at least the day before it entered U.S. airspace what it was going to be doing, and had the opportunity to shoot it down. Did not. It entered the U.S. through Idaho, traveled through the middle of the country, over some very sensitive and important military installations, some of the most important we have in the country, exited off the coast of South Carolina. It was shot down and they're recovering. That was a spy balloon.
Balloon boy.
Taking out, I think they understand that this is not an imaginary game. This is a very real threat that China poses to the United States. So I'm proud of our men and women in uniform for the job that they did. Incredible job. Obviously, it hits close to home.
Balloon boy.
Than to say that the North American Aerospace Defense Command continues to monitor it closely. While we won't get into specifics in regards to the exact location, I can tell you that the balloon continues to move eastward and is currently over the center of the continental United States. Again, we currently assess that the balloon does not present a military or physical threat to people on the ground.
Balloon boy.
Briefed on the balloon. I ordered the Pentagon to shoot it down on Wednesday as soon as possible. They decided, without doing damage to anyone on the ground, they decided that the best time to do that was as it got over water outside within 12-mile limit. They successfully took it down, and I want to compliment our aviators who did it, and we'll have more to report on this a little later. Thank you.
Mr. President, what did you say about China? What's your message to China?
Balloon boy.